Hello and welcome back. We are almost done with the V2 page builder. In today's video, we're going to have a quick look at the right-click options that are available that allow us to work with rows and columns and the various controls. As you can see, a row has already been added to my page and I've set the background to blue. And to add a new row, I just have to click on the plus over here. When a row is added, it automatically comes with one column. Now we can do a few things here. We can add another column to the row, or we can move the row down, or we can move the row up. Now there are also a couple of other options available here, but these are generic options which we'll come to in a minute. Now when we right-clicked on the row, we were able to add another column to the row, and the same is possible when we right-click on a column. We can say add a column on the right. When we click on a column to add another column, it will always go to the right of the row. However, from there you can then click to move it left or right. You can also go to a column and split it into rows. Once you've split it into rows, you can click on the column row to add another row below it, or you can return to the column and again add a row. So you can add a row either directly from a column row or from the column itself. As you see, the columns don't necessarily have to have the same number of rows for the different columns. Here's one row, here's 4 rows, here's 2 rows, and that gives you a lot of flexibility to get creative in your page design. Let me just clean up these last 2 columns and then we can go and look at some of the other settings that are available in terms of a width and height for this column. Now this column, as you see, it defaults to 300 pixels high and it's 100% wide. Now if I go to sizing and let's say for example I change this now to 100 pixels high, you'll see that the column itself becomes less high, but that the row is still set to 300 pixels. If I want to bring this back into alignment, I can go to the column and right click and I can choose to say stretch the height, and then it will inherit again from the row. And similarly, you can do the same thing with width. The stretching of height and width isn't limited to the column. We can do the same thing with controls. Here I've dropped a button and so I can stretch it to take on the width of the column in this case. Or I can stretch the height and it will become as high as the column. Alternatively, I could have skipped those 2 steps and I could have just chosen to stretch the width and height and it would have both happened simultaneously. Okay. So you might wonder now that you see this button, why is it purple and why when I hover over it does it change to grey? Now these are the theme branding settings that are configured in the POS system for buttons, and we'll get to that in the next video. For now, I actually just want to make this button a little bit of a more manageable size so that we can continue with our illustrations. Right, so now I have this button, it's in the top left corner. The next option I have is actually to move it to the center of the parent, and the parent in this case is the column. Okay, so we are almost done here. The next few options are fairly obvious. We can duplicate or copy this control. So to duplicate it, it's a copy and paste action and it takes place within the same parent. Whereas if I copy it, I can now go to another control and I can go paste it over here. Now that there are multiple controls on the page, another way to access them is to choose Show Element Layers. This is a right-click option that's available from anywhere, whether it be the page, a row, a column or a control. And so it gives you a breakdown of the page followed by rows, columns and then the controls for each individual column. And you can simply click on it and you see it highlights that control, and then you can work with the properties over here or you can switch to another control and you can access that control's properties. Now this becomes handy when the layer indexing perhaps is of such a nature that a control can't be seen or a control has been hidden. Then you can access it using the element layers. Okay, and so finally, if you don't need a control anymore, you can simply right click and delete. And the same goes for rows and columns as well. Now that brings us to the end of this video. Come back for the next installment where we'll be looking at theming and branding.